Hey guys, it's Stina with Goddess Guitars, and this is my compilation video so far on my GGBO 2023 scratch build Lilith. Here you can see the sketch, and I based it off of a Fender Meteora. Initially it was supposed to be a solid body with a P90 and a Tune-o-matic bridge. Here you see some of the wood and the owl pattern. I'm using spalted cherry as the cap, black walnut for the owl, and then maple for the back and neck. I utilized the graining in certain directions to emphasize the owl on the black walnut. I chose black walnut because I had a vision for a black barn owl, which is rare, but they're not unheard of. So you can see I have my maple neck, and I had cut that out with the bandsaw and routed the truss rod. My choice for the black barn owl was based on Lilith's story, and here you can see me cutting out the pieces of the owl. So Lilith's backstory: she was the first wife of Adam. She was created exactly how Adam was created, and they were created as equals. However, Adam didn't see it that way. And after a long day of naming all of the animals, Adam had quite a big head and expected Lilith to submit to him, which Lilith was not having at all, and she got so upset and refused to submit, so she actually turned herself into an owl and flew beyond the gates of Eden. Because I didn't know this until I really researched this, but Eden was actually walled off. So Lilith flies to a cave, and that evening God was very upset with her and sent two of his angels to go and speak with her. They tried to convince her to go back to Eden and go back to Adam and submit to him, and when she refused, one of the angels went back to tell God, and the other angel... This is where her story gets a little bit convoluted, because the Christian church teaches that she was actually demonized because she chose to sleep with one of the angel messengers, and that her children became demons. However, with the toxic patriarchy of the Christian church, I can see how that demonization of Lilith feeds into the patriarchal structure of the church. Because if you take a look at a lot of the teachings of women, usually the strong-headed, self-assured women are demonized and scrutinized and turned into Jezebels and women of ill repute. Whereas the women who were good wives and submitted to their husbands, or good daughters and listened and submitted to their fathers, were able to actually receive praise. Seeing that it's been a year since Roe v. Wade was overturned, and all of these rules have been enacted statewide, removing women's bodily autonomy, putting mothers in danger because of medical procedures that cannot be done for fear that the doctor will lose their license. I figured that Lilith was a good statement to actually take back her story and support all people's bodily autonomy, not just women, but everybody. So that's the story of Lilith, and yeah. This here is a video of me sanding down the UV resin after inlaying the beads, and then now I'm actually putting some glue on to glue the back to the cap of the guitar. It was too narrow in order to fit my electronics where I wanted it, so I had to add a walnut sandwich and turned the solid body into a semi-hollow. And here I'm just using a barrel sander bit to kind of shape and accentuate the curves, and then going in with a Shinto rasp as well to kind of get those initial comfort cuts put in. And I'm really happy with how that is turning out at this point. Now, I did have some issues with the router. It chewed up part of my neck cavity, and so I had to kind of pitch hit and do a glue-in neck instead of a bolt-on, which is what I was planning on doing to begin with, but I think it worked out well in the end. And you can see I have an issue with the heel of the neck, and as I shaped that down, some of that spalted cherry, the wood got really punky and actually cracked. I also had the screw that was helping hold the neck in as the glue dried come through with my shaping, so I had to remove that screw, and that actually increased the crack in that spalted cherry. But when I actually took the screw out and then filled it in with a toothpick and some glue, it looks a little bit bad right at the moment, but you know, I persevered and was able to fill it in. And sand it down, and it ended up being just fine once I Shintoed it into the actual shape. You can't even see that there was a crack there, and just a slight dot of where the toothpick ended up filling that screw hole. So I was very happy that that got taken care of. And I'm just taking a look at those comfort carves actually come to a point. You can't really see it on the maple because it's so light, but you'll be able to see it a little bit later. And I still have some shaping left to do at this point. Don't bother the mess in the background because, well, I myself am a hot mess. So here is the final shape of the guitar after I went through with a belt sander, and then the Shinto and sandpaper, and I was able to get almost a hatchet-like edge to a portion of the guitar, which I really, really liked. I was able to really go in and get some extreme curves on the back of the body, and it took a lot of the weight off of it. Now, this is where I actually decided that I'm not going to be doing the Purple Heart fretboard, because when I filled the inlays with the epoxy, some of the lines on that I had cut for the frets got filled as well. And when I went through to recut them, the saw slipped, and yeah, it was not good. So I opted at that point to scrap the Purple Heart and order a fretboard blank from StewMac in Moonlight Ebony. I apologize for any cat noises you hear in the background. My cat's very vocal about this build as well. So here you see me putting in the fret markers, and I got to the point where I had everything but the 12th fret marker. I ran out of fret markers too short, so here you just see me super gluing over the top of the fret markers, and here's the finished product with all the nice clean cut fret lines. This is before I decided what I wanted to do with the 12th fret marker, and I kind of took a few days to figure out what I wanted to do with that. And this is also before I cut the hole for the spoke wheel of the truss rod, and that was kind of a nail-biting experience as well. I always get a little nervous when I want to put a intentional hole into an expensive piece of wood. And then I decided that I am going to dye the fretboard blue, so it'll be black and blue instead of tan and black. So this is just homemade alcohol ink that I made with Sharpie markers, and I think it looks pretty awesome. And I had a little bit of an issue with the Forstner bit with creating the inlay space for my 12th fret marker, but I think it ended up working out in the end. And here is my 12th fret marker. It used to be a necklace pendant of a barn owl, and I actually just covered it with a little bit of UV resin, let it cure, and then just took some duochrome chameleon eyeshadow and rubbed it on there to turn it into more of a burnt chrome feel instead of silver and black. And here it is, inlaid. And then once I had that taken care of, I could actually glue the fretboard onto the neck. And I see it's bungeed within an inch of its life here. And we're just taking the bungee cords off at this point. We can do this. Harbor Freight bungee cords are the best. And here we are with the fretboard glued on to the neck. Looking pretty darn good. Now I had some seams that tended to pull apart with the owl pieces, so I knew that I would need to fill those with sawdust and super glue. But I also know that once the super glue touches the wood, it will not accept any dye. So what I did is I took some iron acetate that I made homemade, and some of the black walnut sawdust from carving out the individual feathers and the face of the owl, and I soaked them in iron acetate and just let them sit for 24 hours. And now we'll just take a look and see if that stained the sawdust the color that I need it to be. Plus then If that worked, then I'm going to need to also use the iron acetate on the owl to make sure that that matches before I can, fill those seams. So now is the big reveal, and let's see. There we go. Looks like a winner to me. The tan black walnut sawdust is now charcoal colored. So now I can go on and add the iron acetate onto the owl. And here you see me just adding that on with a microfiber rag and kind of dabbing it into all of those little crevices. And here it is after it's been done, and then here it is after I've added the sawdust into the seams and added the super glue on top of that. So after carving out the face and the eyes, evening out the belly, so that way the iron acetate was able to accept or the wood was able to accept the iron acetate more evenly, I covered the whole bird again, and then it was time to work on the actual coloring of the rest of the guitar. So I used some unicorn spit in the gunmetal metallic as well as the royal blue metallic to kind of highlight those feathers and the carving of the owl, it's one of my favorite products. It is a stain, it's a glaze, as well as a paint. It's water soluble, so it is easy cleanup and you can do a lot of things with it. And here you see me sanding the back, prepping it for the stain, and then I decided to do a two-tone and get that covered in black alcohol ink that I made from Sharpie markers. And once I had the black on, then I proceeded to start to sand it off, which you'll see in just a moment. And I really like the way that it turned out. It almost, at this point, looked like an X-ray. I almost kept it just the black with the faded out in the center. It looked really, really cool. But I had an idea. I wanted a blue guitar to look kind of like the night sky, so I ended up going back in with a couple different blue alcohol inks that I made out of Sharpie markers to give it a blue burst and really make that figuring in the maple pop. Now, I know it's sacrilege to say, however, this back maple wood I ended up getting at Home Depot out of all of the places that you can find wood. You can actually find some really good figured wood, figured maple at Home Depot. And so there's the back. And once you get it in the sunlight, you'll be able to see the burst a little bit better. And you can kind of see where those ridges are kind of highlighted, and I was very happy with the coloring on this. Now we go on to the front, and the front I used alcohol inks as well, but I used my watercolor technique, which is also what I call my raindrop technique, and it's just layering alcohol inks over each other, because the alcohol will actually reactivate the alcohol ink and push different colors in different directions. So once I laid down the color, then I'd go in with just pure alcohol and then go through and push some of the colors away, and it gave a really nice watercolored kind of mottled sky to it. I also then went in and used black and gray alcohol ink to color in the F hole, which is the Lilith moon. So that's where I am so far. I hope you guys like it, and I've got 9 days to finish it, and I will see you on the flip side. Have a great one.